Palpatine is an evil person. That should come as a shock to no one, and following Order 66, he worked tirelessly to weed out any potential threats or problems that might undermine his plans, such as ending the production of all battle droids and the clones. This was all done in preparation of the construction of the Death Star. It is because Palpatine has done so many evil things that there is often many crimes of his that are overlooked, and we get to see one of these horrific operations in Rebels Season 2, and that was the complete and utter destruction of the Geonosian species. Despite being some of the most hated species in all of Star Wars, there are not many people who would take genocide as an act to get rid of them. Palpatine was, though, and at first glance, this decision made no sense. They were his allies since the beginning of the Clone Wars and helped supply him with the battle droid army as well as being incredibly loyal to him. They proved this as much by allowing Palpatine to have their factories run 24/7. They also helped him with some other projects as well. As we saw in Attack of the Clones, the Geonosians had the schematics for the Death Star, and by the end of the Clone Wars had begun production on it. And once the war was over, the project was handed over to Grand Moff Tarkin as the supervisor. And once that happened, they were replaced with slave labor, and basically became useless to Palpatine. They no longer were helping him build the Death Star or producing any battle droids, but this was not the main reason he had them all killed. It also wasn't due to the fact that they were former separatists and all separatists were now war criminals, but instead it was due to them knowing far too much about everything. And out of everyone else in the galaxy, it was far more likely that the Geonosians would betray him. Over the course of the Clone Wars, Palpatine grew to be very close with the Geonosians and trusted them with many projects. But then he realized that if the people found out about what he was doing, it could connect him to the separatist movements and cause mass chaos and disorder. As well as that, they could also reveal the Death Star plans to the public, which is something Palpatine tried to keep under wraps for 20 years. And because the Geonosians were the one constructing it, they knew everything about it, which included its weaknesses and potential for destruction. And because at the time the Death Star was still very secretive, there was very few people who knew about it. And Palpatine saw the Geonosians as a loose end that could ruin everything he worked for. And because of this, ordered Wilhuff Tarkin to cause a complete genocide of the entire Geonosian species. And he would go about this via chemical warfare. As we saw in Rebels, the Empire dropped hundreds if not thousands of poisonous canisters all across the planet. And this gas not only caused the death of all the living Geonosians, but also desterilized all of the Geonosian eggs, including the queen eggs, and therefore their future. And once the last queen died out, there was no one to take her place, and the species as a whole would slowly die out. And Palpatine and Tarkin viewed this near genocide of their species as a success. I say near because there was one lone survivor and something that he had that could save their entire species, a queen egg. But unfortunately, this story does not have a happy ending. And shortly after the events of Rebels, Click-Clack, the lone survivor, would die. And although the queen egg did hatch, she unfortunately would lose her womb and had no way of producing Geonosians. And seeing that there was no other possible way of reproduction, connected herself to a machine, which allowed her to create mechanical B-1 battle droids, which she viewed as her children. But as if this wasn't bad enough, it gets worse. Around 0 BBY, Darth Vader would return to the planet, and after seeing what he came to see, would forcefully take control over the factory and deal with the last surviving queen. And once he killed her, he would have killed off the entire species for good. And while there isn't an exact number of the death toll that happened, we do know it is around 100 billion. Despite Palpatine working with the Geonosians for decades, Palpatine always saw them as a temporary arrangement, and originally wanted to convert them into his obedient little minions. But as soon as he found out that they were only loyal to their queen and the hive and nothing else, he saw them as completely useless to him, and also people who knew too much. And due to everything else I've mentioned, was the reason Palpatine would call upon the complete and utter destruction of their species. It is safe to say that this extermination is easily one of the most devastating death tolls in all of Star Wars. But anyway, that is the reason Palpatine caused the complete annihilation of the entire Geonosian species. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like and subscribe. And with that, my fellow Star Wars nerds, may the Force be with you.